Here.
We're gonna start up. I'm gonna presume that everyone knows what's been happening the past month, month or so. But would you? This interview is basically to get your perspective on what's been going on. Can you take us and briefly talk to us about what started and sparked these citizens to protest, basically?
I can tell you what I know. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a good witness, but I can tell you what I know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
From a year ago, from exactly a year ago, there was a boy. He was only like maybe 18 years old. He was being killed by the hands of some police officers, and for no reason except that he refused to leave a cyber cafe. You know, a cyber cafe, an internet cafe. Some police officers had go into an internet cafe and they forced him to show his ID, and he didn't want to do so. So they treat him with violence and they force him to get out from the cyber cafe, and they keep kicking him until he die. So what happened after that? They say that that boy had died while the officers, while they trying to catch him dealing in drugs or trying to sell drugs, while he was not a drug dealer, but they say so. Everyone at Egypt had believed that it's a fake story from the police, and as usual he was being killed by violence from some police officers for no reason. And instead of saying that we are guilty and we must punish the one who do so, they say that he was a drug dealer and we killed him while he was trying to sell drugs for some boys. That was the beginning, as I believe, because most of the youth and the young generations had started to believe that's such an act we will not accept anymore. They start to kill the new generations. It's not about corruption or dictatorship anymore, but the youth and the young generation are start to be killed. On that day, they made a page on internet. It called Khaled Said, the name of that boy, and the one who was publishing that page, he was the manager of advertising for Google at Middle East, and he was Egyptian, so he was a professional. He knew how to make that page can reach everyone at Middle East.
Well, that Ahmed,
So,
Ahmed, that one of my
yeah,
questions.
sure.
Go into how the internet basically uh, picked up coverage of this Facebook, Twitter, and blogs. How did it affect you guys over there?
It was an amazing discovery to know what Twitter and Facebook is. Look, the Egyptians for so many generations, they were believing the same, that we are under such a corrupted dictatorship regime. But everyone were so afraid from being talked to each other about that, because the national security of the government, of the president, or maybe the secret service may harm or may put anyone in prison for that. But once the internet had been become so public and easy to be reached by everyone at Egypt, a new technology, and the government didn't know nothing about that. They saw that those who use internet and Facebook and Twitter are just some lazy boys and they are useless. They will not be able to use it against them. They don't know anything because the government didn't know nothing about technology truly. They didn't know that those young generations had used Facebook and Twitter to be a network to connect all those who are against dictatorship, against corruption, but it was only on the matrix, not in reality. It was only on internet. No one can make all those who are being gathered on internet around believing that we must change Egypt, that it can be in real. I can tell you. Yeah, sure. You can say what you want.
No, continue. Continue.
Look, it was about just a cyber life for so many young generations trying to feel much better by talking about change, by saying what they believe and what they know about the government, but no one had believed that it can be in real. But what happened is some of those pioneers, some pioneers of the young generations had succeeded in making a small demonstration in day 25. And am I saying a small demonstration, not a revolution yet? In day 25 of January, it was a small demonstration are being moved by some pioneers from those young generations who lived on the cyber life, not on the real life. And they try to make it real. But they find out that their own numbers are not just a few. Before that, I can tell you something. In day 25, I were having a tour for the Egyptian Museum and the pyramids, as usual. On the way for the museum, I find the huge numbers on a big demonstrations on the streets, and I know that that is abnormal. It's not what I get used to see every day. We have so many demonstrations every day at Egypt for the last 10 years. But the most biggest demonstration, it was maybe the numbers of the people was 150 or 200, not more. But on that day, on the way for the Egyptian Museum, I find out it's not 100 or 200, it's thousands. For my first time in my life, it was those who come out from the cyber life, from the internet to the reality. They gathered together, but it was still a demonstration. A thousands, it's nothing at Egypt, who contains 80 million. But in day 28, after 3 days of these demonstrations, the revolution started. And it was the first day I go out to the streets, by the way, for myself.
Well, where
My first day, yeah.
You told me personally that you had to get evacuated about a week ago because you feared for your family's safety. I know you talked about while we were out there, you have a son, and can you talk about how, starting on 1 month ago tomorrow is when the protest started, how did it affect your life personally?
You mean how it affect me in my life?
Your life, your
These
family,
demonstrations or the revolution?
the demonstrations.
You know, the demonstrations. You mean for my business and my family?
Both.
Look, for my business, it was sure. My business was killed, truly killed by the mean of that word. You can imagine that we paid by day as guides. 16,000, by the way. 16,000 guides at Egypt. They are being paid by day. And once you have no salary, you have no payment, and you have no income at all, zero income. Yes, it affected me in my life and in my financial situation. It turned to be so bad. But if I compare that with the future of my son, so I will choose the revolution. I can be hurt for a short time. I may lose my business for a short time, but I can be sure that the life of my son, the future of my son will be much better. So I don't care. Or also, I will be like those corrupted businessmen at the government. If I say I will not support the revolution, so what is the difference between me and those corrupted businessmen at the government who says that we will do everything for our good sake and then for the whole nation? So I choose, while it's against my interests, it's against my business, to support the revolution. But I don't care, because I care only for the future of my son. I don't care about that year or the next one, but I who may have a chance to have a better life more than what I have. I don't want my son to see what I have seen in my life. I don't want him to be ruled by a governor or a president who ruled Egypt for 30 years by the hands of a police and by the hands of the national security. I will not let my son see these days anymore. So I go for these demonstrations, I go for the revolution against my interests and my business, who are being really affected hard, badly by the demonstrations. About my family, yes, sure, I was so worried about them. I was so worried because there was a chaos at Egypt. The jails and the prisoners are out on the streets. Some of them are serial killers. So you can imagine that you have a jail beside your home, just maybe 500 meters from your house. And that jail has the most dangerous serial killers, and they are out. It's so horrible feeling. So I run away with my family to my dad's house, away from all that. But I'm still supporting the revolution by any means. I will do everything for that revolution who makes me feel that I am different and my son will have a different life. I feel that those who made the revolution are so precious.